If you ask me what my favorite mechanic in Path of Exile is at League Start, I would say Expedition at number 1, and it's not even close. Expedition is probably the most complete mechanic GGG has ever made. It is great for farming currency, it's great for making gear, there's some gambling built into it, and there is both a mapping and external component to it, and it's all entirely up to you how much you choose to engage with each of those various aspects. The combination of crafting gear and currency, production, printing money that it provides is completely unmatched. So before I get into this, be sure to like and subscribe if you find this video helpful and want to see more like it, and now let's just dive right in. So the thing that makes Expedition special is, as I said, it is an all-in-one League mechanic. It gives you gear, gives you currency, gives you everything you could possibly want or need. And I do think it's really fun. I think it's one of the most fun League mechanics you can do, in part because of a lot of quality of life upgrades that have been made to it since it was first introduced all the way back in Expedition League. Now, just to give a basic overview of what you do, you find expeditions in your maps. There'll be one of these 4 NPCs, Gwenin, Rog, Tujin, or Danig. They'll be hanging out by a bunch of corpses and treasure chests that are all buried in the ground. You set several explosives, or depending on your Atlas passives, one big bomb down on the ground, then you blow them up. The explosions free the treasure and the buried monsters. You kill all the monsters, you loot all the treasure chests, you loot everything that drops, and then you're done. That's it. In and out, nice and quick, just like I like it. Now, the monsters and the treasure chests also drop a special currency called artifacts. These are account-wide, they can't be traded with other players, so you don't have to pick them up. They're just quality of life. They instantly go into your account, and then they get stored in the expedition locker. As you can see, I got a lot of artifacts in my expedition locker because I do like me some expedition. So now I'll talk about the Scarabs. There were a bunch of Scarabs added in the last league for Expedition, and just to kind of run through them, there's the basic Expedition Scarab. It forces an expedition into your maps. This can be useful in the very early phases of doing the post-campaign mapping, but once you get spec'd into Expedition really at all in the tree, you're going to be able to easily hit 100% guaranteed chance for it to show up in every map, so these will wind up being worthless. Goodbye. The second are Expedition Scarabs of Verisium Powder, and similarly, these are one that can be useful very early on before you have spec'd into the big bomb, but as soon as you spec into the big bomb, it mostly is worthless. You get one big bomb instead of a bunch of little bombs. Currently, the way that this would work is if you weren't spec'd into the big bomb, you would get one more little bomb. That is actually great, and then a much larger radius on all the bombs. That's good, but with the big bomb, this adds a little bit of extra radius, not very much, not very good. The next Scarab is the Expedition Scarab of Rune Finding, and this is by far the most important one. It makes it so that you have a 100% increased number of runic monster markers in your expeditions that are in your maps, and runic monsters are really what you're hunting. This is the big game that you're looking for. You're trying to find as many skeletons as possible to kill them all, and this puts more into your maps, and so I have looked through the patch notes to make sure there were no further changes to these Scarabs. It's possible they've made it so you can only have one, but currently you would want to put 2 of these. Anytime that you're kind of starting to juice, even just the lightest amount of juicing for Expedition, you would want to put 2 Scarabs in, triple the amount of monsters that are in your maps. That's all very good. Then the final Scarab is the Scarab of Archaeology. I did do a video about farming these specifically, and when these are juiced up, what they do is they add 2 suffixes and 2 prefixes to all the remnants that are in your expeditions. Remnants are a thing that are going to be hidden in between the treasure chests. Well, not really hidden. They're present between the treasure chests and the monsters, and they give buffs to the treasure chests and the monsters, both damage and nastiness buffs to the monsters, but also reward buffs to the monsters and the treasure chests. You know, Path of Exile, risk-reward design. This makes it so that they have 2 more suffixes and prefixes for all of the remnants, and so I found that in some of the testing of this in 3.24, sometimes this made tier 16 expeditions more difficult than tier 17s. Sometimes it didn't. In playing around with a couple of maps before recording this, I found it to be kind of a mixed bag. Generally, it was not that difficult. This character is insanely strong, though. I did tier 17s week 1 on this character pre-nerf, and then I pushed this character much further after that. I played it for pretty much the first full month of the league, so it's very strong. So these shouldn't be too difficult for me in this video. Hopefully I'm going to show them off, but it'll be pretty easy to see the difference between having these on and off. It really makes the expeditions much more scary and more juicy. So again, just leaning further into the risk reward. And then finally, there are Expedition Scarabs of the Scald, and these make it so that the expeditions are guaranteed to be led by Danig, and they're being removed in the next league. So once again, you know what? I'm going to hang on to them, see what they turn into. I don't know. But they're not going to be in the game in the coming league, so no need to worry about those. All right, now I'm going to talk about Atlas passives, and I talked about this already in the Betrayal video where I showed this exact same tree off where I have a bunch of betrayal nodes. I like betrayal and expedition together because they're on the right hand side of the tree. They synergize nicely with the blue altars, which are just my personal preference. So, you know, you can go the other direction if you want, but this all lines up very nicely. So I like to do expedition and betrayal together. Not something you have to do, but I do recommend it. Expedition has some pretty good nodes in here, and I'll go ahead and kind of point these out. There's also a couple of stinkers, so I'll definitely pinpoint those as well. The hunt for answers and this little wheel here just gives you a bunch of chance to get an expedition encounter in your map. I say this in every time I ever talk about any sort of currency strategy or whatever, but you have a baseline 8% chance for expedition to be in your map, and getting up to 92% from all the passives in the tree will give you 100%. 92 plus 8 is 100. That'll do the trick. And so coming down here and getting this makes it so that it's very easy to guarantee expeditions are in every map. Once you've done that, you kind of want to make a beeline to extreme archaeology. This is the big boom. It'll become real apparent in the maps that I demo in a little bit that, you know, this is just it. It sets you to one explosive and then it makes it gigantic. It also shaves 10% of the expedition monster's health off before they come out. So kind of like a pre-culling strike, which is convenient. It's definitely a lot more scary. Maybe even more than being like scary for your character. It's scary for your GPU. Yeah, there's definitely a performance dip when the game suddenly spawns in like 200 dudes all at once. But you know, that's kind of the fun risk reward of doing extreme archaeology. It way speeds everything up. It also makes all of the reliquaries apply to everything that you hit. So it is a lot more rewarding, but more importantly, it's just really fast. Ancient Writings makes it so that you have more remnants in your maps. More remnants means more reward and gives them a chance to have more suffixes, which again means more risk reward from doing the whole expedition. Now, I'm not taking Distinguished Demolitionists, and that is because it gives you more explosives, but you only get one, so that doesn't have any application. And then the same is kind of true of the Verisium Powder. Verisium Powder gives you 80% increased explosive radius, but you already get 200% increased explosive radius from Extreme Archaeology. So spending a couple of points to come over and get 35% is very, very minor. You can do Distinguished Demolitionist and Verisium Powder, but sometimes when you're doing Extreme Archaeology, you might actually have bad reliquaries where there's some sort of build disabling mod in there, like monsters are immune to chaos damage and you're playing a pure chaos damage build. So it's actually kind of better to not have the biggest possible explosive in case you have to kind of wiggle around to not hit some sort of bad mod. You know, otherwise, if your explosive radius is too large, you just might literally not be able to do the expedition in that map at all. Then there's Buried Knowledge. This just gives you a lot more logbooks and more runic monsters, which also gives you more logbooks. A fantastic node. And then finally, you have Scratching Up the Ground in a Noble Quest, and this just gives you more likelihood to have Tujen and Danig in your maps. And Tujen and Danig are the two best of the expedition NPCs. Having them in your maps means you will get artifacts and refresh currency from them, but logbooks don't care what NPC you're doing them for. You could have straight Gwynin in every map, be super unlucky, and get a bunch of logbooks, and you'd still be good. All right, so in terms of difficulty and map tier scaling and so on, Expedition is a mechanic that scales with Quant, so generally speaking, you want to do them on the highest map tier that you can reasonably manage to clear. You want to chisel the maps up if you're able to, Alchem, Volum, all of that stuff. Get the maps as juicy as you can. This will have multiplicative effects with the difficulty of Expedition, so bear that in mind. You know, you don't want to push yourself too far, but you do want everything to be nice and juicy. They also scale with Quant and Rarity from Eldritch Altars, so if you're able to take Quant and Rarity nodes from Eldritch Altars, or bonuses from Eldritch Altars, you want to do that as well before doing the Expedition. In terms of our main goal in Expedition, it's really to farm for logbooks. That's priority number one. And to accomplish that, we want to explode as many runic monster markers as possible. This is why the Expedition Scarab of Rune Finding is so valuable. Eldritch Altars, specifically the blue ones that give you a combination of Quant and Rarity, are just really, really good for this. They maximize the value of those logbooks. Pack size is also really good. It's good to have as much pack size as possible on your maps. That means more runic monsters. So if I'm doing an expedition at a high map tier, I want to clear out the rest of the map first, get all the Eldritch Altars I can, take all the quant rarity I can from them, then blow up the expedition as the last thing I do in the map. Once I get to the expedition, I like to look around through the reliquaries to make sure there aren't any build disabling nodes. Usually those will be in yellow. They'll say things like monsters are immune to physical damage, that kind of thing. There are some build disabling things that might not be though if you're playing an occultist and you're relying on occultist curse pops. There'll be in just regular white text, monsters are immune to curses, and hexproof won't override that. They will just be immune to your curses completely. So there's a lot of dangerous stuff in there. Monster hits can't be evaded. Attacks against monsters can't be crits. Lots and lots of stuff that you really do have to stop and read. And that's probably the biggest downside of doing Expedition is reading is required. Once I've found that I have a good set of reliquary bonuses and debuffs and so on, I'll set my one big explosive, double check to make sure that there's nothing bad, and then pop it, kill everything off. And that's pretty much it. I think I'll do a map just to kind of show it off, and this will be just like a regular map. I will just do 2 Scarabs of Rune Finding, nothing else. Just gonna go ahead and jump into this map. Normally I will full clear out the map, including the map boss, and usually I'll boss rush to try and get as many quantum rarity mods from Eldritch Altars, and then I will full clear the map, and then I'll go to the expedition. But since we're just doing a video here, I'm just gonna rush straight to the expedition, kind of clear the area around it so I can look at this and then do that first thing. But again, normally I would boss rush, full clear, expedition altar, Eldritch Altars, and then expedition last. Okay, so I'm looking around, chaos damage immune. I do all chaos damage, so I want to make sure to avoid this one. Cold damage, that's fine. Looking around for things that increase the pack size of monsters or the quantity of items they drop, as these rewards, the sort of pale text, and not really seeing anything all that great so far. Unfortunately, this right here would be good, but it's pretty close to this chaos damage one, so we can't really get it. Increased number of rare monsters is good. There's one that shows up that's really, really valuable, that's quite rare, and that is runic monsters are duplicated. That is twice as many monsters, twice as many shots at logbooks, rewards, everything that monsters drop. So I'm going to stay away from this one. I'm going to come over here and maybe I'll set it around here. And then I like to just double check by mousing over the little thing here next to the explosive. Okay, we look good. Let's blow it up. And this is pretty simple. You just kill some guys real quick. Nothing too complicated. Loot all the chests. Everything's dead. Loot all the chests, get out, and do the next. All right, and now I'm going to run another one, and I will skip straight to the expedition, and I'm going to run one that has an expedition Scarab of Archaeology, so you can kind of see the difference between the sort of regular, monster-heavy, but regular expedition, and then one that is, more juiced. All right, here I am at the expedition, and as you can see, these tooltips are much longer. There is so much more going on here. There's no way that you can reasonably read all of this quickly, effortlessly, but there are some good things here that I can point out. Increased pack size, that's really good. I don't see any runic monsters or duplicated, which is fine, but I can see one that's really dangerous here. Monster hits can't be evaded, very dangerous. There's some other stuff in here that's listed as good. Corrupted items, 50% chance for items to be corrupted. This can actually be bad. It'll throw a free vol orb onto all of your drops, including logbooks, which can often mean that you just have some white corrupted logbooks, and that's unfortunate because you do want to roll logbooks up like maps. But okay, I don't see anything horribly build disabling. I'm trying to look at this. Obviously, I won't be able to evade. I can see that kind of about 2/3 of the way up. That'll be a little rippy, but I think we'll be okay here. So let's go ahead and do this. But one note I wanted to add in here, I don't have really a point in my notes to say this. It's just logbooks can only come from runic monsters. One of the most commonly asked questions. They don't come from the treasure chests at all, or reliquaries or anything. It's just the runic monsters. And runic monsters are indicated by the skulls, and treasure chests are indicated by the little treasure chest flags. All right, let's blow it up and run scared. Honestly, not too bad. This character's pretty strong. Progenesis will do that, I guess. All right, As you can see, lot more stuff in this map. Getting a lot of artifacts from the chests, getting a lot of exotic coinage from all the monsters as well. You know, like that's a lot of coins. That's a lot of rerolls on Tujen. That's pretty great. Good map. All right, now let's talk about the Expedition NPCs. There are 4 of them, and each of them is a vendor. You can trade with them in your hideout using the stuff that you farm in your expeditions, the artifacts, and the vendor refresh currency. So let's just start with Gwenin here. Kind of use her as an example case. Each NPC will sell you stuff for their various currencies, and then they have in the bottom right corner this little refresh tab. They have a number of refresh currency that they show off how many you have, and you can press it to reset their trade window. You can just kind of, you know, this is a bad way to do it. I'm just having fun here, but you can refresh the window and just kind of see, you know, you don't like anything they have available, refresh it, try again. Farming refresh currency and selling those to other players, since they are tradable, is a full-fledged currency farming strategy of its own. Now, as for Gwenin, she's the gambler. She'll sell you stuff. It's usually garbage. You know, you can try buying a mage blood or a headhunter from her by buying 1,000,000 heavy belts or leather belts, and it'll probably end in tears. I think that Gwenin is generally a bad use of time and not worth engaging with. But Rog is pretty good. Rog is Pog. You use him to craft items, essentially. You pick a base, and then you just sort of, like, he'll do a guided crafting sim for you. He's sort of like baby's first crafting. A lot of the time, the stuff he'll make is not great, but sometimes it can be. Sometimes he can make some good stuff. Not in this case. You have the option to either skip or upgrade it, you know, every time. And you can always take an item early if you want. You know, I don't think that this bow is going to wind up being anything special. It wasn't, but, you know, this is definitely an option for people who are trying to make just sort of a basic axe early on, basic weapon early on in a league. Try and roll some ROG items until you get something that's at least close enough to be able to craft a final mod on and get yourself something of value. And then, of course, there's always the possibility of just like crafting boots. That's, you know, if you're just looking to like make some stuff early on in a league to sell to other players, boots, looking for things that have like life, res, and move speed on them. That's a great approach. Rings that have a lot of resistances and life on them. Helms that have like resistances and life. Those are all good options. Any sort of weapon with a bunch of physical damage rolls on it can be really good. Rog is pretty great. Big fan. Then there's Tujen. He's the main thing that everybody loves, the main thing that everyone interacts with. I could not have planned that better. And this is why. He sells you money. Divine Orb on the very first refresh. God, that's perfect. So the thing with Tujen is you basically just come and trade for items from him. I generally won't buy anything that's worth less than a Chaos Orb or 2. But at the very start of a league, you can just buy most of the stuff that he'll have available. You know, you're going to be pretty low on currency early on, so even buying stuff like armor scraps maybe is lower than I would need, but like chance orbs on day 1 of a league, getting 5, 10, 15 chance orbs from Rog will help you be able to buy maps from Kirak. Definitely something that can be very helpful to buy like a lot of currency from him. And generally speaking, the strategy people will use is they will barely gamble, barely try to haggle with him at all. Because if you try to like sit there and fine tune it, you know, you just basically, you offer him like 80%. He'll take it most of the time, pretty much all the time. Whereas if you sit there and you try to be like, all right, I'm gonna get my money's worth. You're sitting here, you're fighting with him for a while. Come on, man. You're wasting all this time. This is time that you could be spend. You know, you might lose the trade like I just did there, but this is time you could just spend like getting the currency from them as fast as possible and then just going and farming more artifacts and more vendor refresh currency. So overwhelmingly, I would say you just kind of want to speed through all of your trades with Tujen, nice and quick, buy anything that's worth more than a chaos or a couple of chaos, at least initially. You could maybe go like, I don't know, around a chaos, and then later on you can kind of transition into just shooting for more high value stuff. Do look at like gems though. Sometimes he'll have, usually the more valuable stuff will be toward the top of the list, but sometimes he'll have like 2120 gems that just might be worth a couple of divines just randomly tucked in there, and it doesn't say like this is worth a ton of money, so you will want to stop and look at things along the way just to be sure. And then finally, Danig is not a haggler. He just sells you stuff for basically he sells his currency so you can buy other people's currency. So day 1 of a league, day 2 of a league, buying ROG stuff can be okay. Generally speaking, I pretty much only want to buy Tujin currency, and you don't really want to buy these top 4, the ones where he just says, I'll trade you 1 for 1. You want to buy stuff that is being sold at a discount. He'll also sell vendor refresh currencies. Again, day 1 or 2 of a league, ROG can be pretty good. I would never buy the Gwenin ones. Mainly it's all about them Tujin coins, so buying the Tujin coins, buying some Tujin artifacts. You can just buy them all. There's no haggling going on here. Oh, yeah, okay. I'm over the cap, so I literally can't fit any more artifacts in, so I can't actually buy any more of Tujin's artifacts, and that's fine. Ultimately, this is pretty much what you do with old Danzig, is you're just buying Tujin stuff from him. He's basically just a more efficient version of Tujin, since he'll give you Tujin stuff at anywhere from like 2 to 1 to like 60 or I guess 30-40% discount. And then sometimes, and I'm just going to sit here and refresh until he does it, sometimes he will sell you logbooks. Oh, I went over it. All right, great. So sometimes you will buy logbooks from old Danig, and you know, whenever those pop up, you want to buy those immediately, and you can run them or sell them or whatever. And that's pretty much all there is to Danig. He's actually probably the least complicated of the guys. You just buy stuff from him that's for Tujin or ROG if you want to do ROG. All right, now that I've just bought that logbook, let's go ahead and talk about logbooks. So logbooks can be found from runic monsters in your expeditions and your maps. They can be purchased from Danig, and they're basically a map, but the only thing in the map is a giant expedition. They're valuable depending on the relative prices of them. They might be worth using bestiary to split them, but usually not. The main time that would be the case is sometimes in the implicit modifiers. They'll say area contains Varana or one of the other bosses. Area contains, and then X would be like boss name. In those cases, you do want to split those with bestiary. Those are, you know, being able to guarantee that the boss is in there makes it quite a lot more valuable, and you're going to want to do that twice instead of just the once. Now, just like a map, you can roll the quantity up, you know, roll these up to rare, quantity them up. You can't chisel, but that's fine. You should roll them up, though. You do want to get high quant and high rarity on your logbooks, since the rewards, just like with maps, are going to be based off of the quantity and rarity of the area. I'm going to just slap a couple of exalts on here. Okay, 84% quantity, not bad. I usually don't vol my logbooks. I don't feel like running the risk of bricking them. I'm just going to, you know, get the quality up as much as I can. Now, they do have implicit modifiers, and some of these implicit modifiers can be rolled, and they pretty much do what they say. Sometimes there will be some really good stuff, more explosives, more rewards from treasure chests. Underground areas can be really good rewards, but then there's a lot of them like this here where, you know, more remnants, not really that valuable. There's like a, you know, it's PoE. There are a lot of potential options for the implicits, and most of them are kind of just okay. Now, logbooks have an option of 2 or 3 different expeditions, and every single one of those expeditions can correspond to any of the 4 expedition NPCs, and the value on them is exactly the same as it is in maps. Danig is the best, that's Knights of the Sun. Tujin is the second best, that's the Black Scythe. ROG will be third, that's Order of the Chalice. And then Gwenin ones, I can't even remember what her name is, Broken Circle, those are by far the least valuable of the logbook sets. So when you want to run the logbook, you come over to Danig, you throw the logbook in, you choose which of the ones that you want to run. In this case, we have Knights of the Sun or Broken Circle. Obviously, we're taking Knights of the Sun. We're going to go ahead and select Knights of the Sun, jump in, and slam it. Now, unlike in maps, you don't really care about reliquaries, and you don't really care about runic monsters. They'll be marked. You'll be able to see them. But what you really care about are these right here, these little blue swirly wheel things. These are the indicators of where artifact chests are held, and these are the best way to get artifacts in your logbooks, is to hit all of these. And then also you're going to want to hit on, thank God, man, this has been a real blessed video so far. You're going to want to hit on bosses, which will be indicated with this big runic circle or runic skull on the minimap. They'll have like a special little area kind of in the map that you'll be able to see, especially as we get closer with explosives. It'll kind of light up when you mouse over it with explosives. And bosses will benefit from all of the reliquaries that you have slapped on beforehand. Unlike in maps, we're not able to get the big boom, so we do have to kind of chain our way through the whole logbook area in order to get to the boss, in order to get to some of these side areas, which will be indicated on the minimap with this sort of little glow, this like blue little circle. And then there can also be side areas as well that are kind of hidden behind a wall that you can blow up, like right here where I'm standing. And so that's pretty much what you want to look for, is you want to look for everything you can to get as many artifacts as possible. And if you get lucky and you get a boss along the way, that's awesome. You want to maximize your value with that. So I'm going to make my way over, going through the holes in the ground, like this one right here on the minimap here, you know, on the ground right here. And I can even show off as I mouse over. You see how it kind of lights up. I'll wait for the Eater of Worlds to move away, but you can see it lights up as I mouse over it. We're going to hit that along the way to making our way over to the boss. Just going to keep kind of tapping stuff along the way, making our way through a bunch of chests, and just kind of making sure we don't get the immune to chaos damage along the way. Again, another underground area. We've got 12 more explosions to go. Gonna skip that monster hits can't be evaded. I think I'm going to make my way down toward this wall here, try and blow this up, and then just come back up and just keep making my way over to the boss. Try and end at the boss. Try and make everything come together where I end at the boss nicely, hit a bunch of remnants, really juice up the boss along the way. See if there's anything else. 40% more quantity of items, that could be useful. All right, one more before getting to the boss. Just gonna kind of throw it there and then slap this down here. Now, normally if you don't have a boss, as I was expecting to kind of demonstrate in this video, but then I got the curveball of a boss, good thing. Normally you're gonna wanna kind of try to just zoom through your logbooks fairly quickly. You know, you would open it up, you would look around and go, okay, that's an underground spot. That's an underground spot over there. There's a side area there. Zip, 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 zip. Zip through it all, and then, you know, set it up to explode, get in and out as quickly as you can. But because of the boss, I do like to slow things down a bit, make sure I'm taking all the nodes I can along the way, make sure I'm not missing anything big along the way. And then before I blow it up, as always, I like to double check. Monsters can bleed, monsters will get a 20% cooling strike, can't crit against them. This is all fine. Nothing here is build disabling, so now we're gonna light it up and we're gonna rock and roll. And this is probably all going to be very nice and simple and easy, and then we'll even get ourselves a little boss kill along the way. Okay, cool. Now there will be a bunch of treasure chests along the way, and these can all correspond to different league mechanics. You know, I got a heist treasure chest there. There will be just currency ones. Currency ones are my favorites. In the past, I liked the div card ones, the stacked deck ones, but stacked decks got a pretty substantial nerf in patch 3.24. So they're not as valuable anymore. I like to stop and do the little side areas, underground areas along the way. Let's clear those out. Yep, just clearing them out. Sometimes you just have a little event in some of these underground areas where you'll click a chest. There will be a bunch of guys you have to kill very slowly. And then once you do, you'll get a little bit of like currency reward, artifact reward. I'm going to go back and clear out that other underground area as well. Really wasn't expecting a boss. Not that I'm upset about it. On the contrary, quite the opposite. Okay, now I'm just going to finish clearing everything else out in this expedition. Getting lots of artifacts. That's great. That is, you know, ideally that would be happening for me on League Start. That would be what you'd want. All right, I think I've pretty much cleared everything out except for this stuff right around the boss room. So we'll just finish this off, and then I'll go in and kick this boss down, and then we'll be done. Set a portal outside. Logbooks just like maps. You can move the portal around wherever you want. 6 portals per logbook. All the usual stuff. All right, time to die, big dog. All right, excellent. Now I get the chance to talk about Olroth, which was a fight I didn't really understand when I first did it all the way back in Expedition League. It took me a little while to figure out. So the main mechanic is you have to drain his health down to 0. He can't die, and he'll say that. He cannot die. And then after a little bit, you have the option of either destroying this portal that's streaming guys into the map, or into the boss room, I should say, or destroying this crystal that's eating up some of your space that's like safe to stand around. I'm blowing up that crystal every time, but you have to wait for Danik to be, to realize what's happening and set the explosives for you. So you just keep clearing guys, keep clearing the boss down, pressing the boss down. and you're good. He gains a new skill, a couple of new skills, Wasteland, which will do a massive explosion on the ground. Kind of hard to see because of all of my Toxic Rain, but you can see how much damage it's doing. That ain't messing around. Then the other one is Starfire. This the circle, the Triskelion flame that's circling around the room will shoot a line straight across the room, so you want to be careful of that. Anyhow, now we're just, we've chiseled him back down again. Now we're just waiting on Danig to set another explosive. And once again, I'm going to blow up the crystal instead of the portal, because I don't mind having the guys around. You know, your mileage may vary, but probably not. And then after you've done 2 explosives, that'll blow up the Triskelion flame, and then you can just kill him regular style, and that's what we're going to do. Get dead. He says, Wasteland, you run away. Always play Path of Exile with your sound on. You're depriving yourself of a sense by not having your sound on. Would you play with your monitor turned off? I think not. Okay, we got ourselves some very worthless, unique boots here. This wasn't the most juicy boss by any stretch. I got 19 burial medallions, which would still be pretty good at League Start. That might be over a Divine's worth, depending on, well, a lot of different factors. But, you know, not too bad. Gonna leave everything else on the ground as it was and go ahead and jump out and kind of wrap things up here. So logbooks are a really great moneymaker, and for the most part, the best approach with them is to zoom through just as quick as you can. If you run into a boss like that, you do kind of want to juice it up and try to get more burial medallions, more of whatever the vendor refresh currency is. You know, I've gotten 50, I think, from a single boss. Certainly I've gotten over 45 from a single boss, a very juicy boss, but I didn't want this to be like an hour-long video where I sit and min-max that, so I think that really works as kind of an object lesson. A nice little happy accident. This is the League mechanic that I'm going to be emphasizing the most at the start of the League, other than maybe the new League mechanic, but I'm probably going to be doing a combination of both of those and Betrayal as well, and I can only recommend it. Okay, I think that pretty much covers it. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and have fun in Settler League. Bye.